Welcome back. In this video, we're going to go over hands-on activity number 5. It is actually part 1 of a 2-day activity, and this happens to be my favorite lesson for the entire year. I enjoy part 2 a little bit more than part 1, but I enjoy the whole thing. So this takes us to May 14th and 15th. And before we go any further, as a reminder, please pause the video as often and as long as needed to generate your hands-on activity and put all the proper links in place. We're going to work with tangrams. For those of you that have seen or used a tangram activity, this is probably going to be like 70% similar to what you've seen and or are used to. Specifically, the students are going to build a set of tangrams out of construction paper based on specific directions. To get started, as they enter the room, I have the following directions posted on the front board through the LCD projector. Let's just read them real quick. So I'm telling the kids, sit at a desk, put everything away. You don't need anything but your brain. The sooner you're ready, the more time we have, the more fun this will be. I have posted up here, I can't and won't give out tape, and I might go into detail about why later, but for now, this is just what I have posted on the front board. I won't give out scissors. I won't give out new pieces of construction paper. I will repeat myself, and I will try to say some mini directions in a variety of ways. I won't visually show you any of the steps, so you'll have to listen closely. I actually will on the first couple, but in general, this statement is accurate. All right, let's just link it real quick. Get the directions out of the way. So we have these directions. You might even want to put paste on LCD. That way we know to show it. All right. This is what I use for my cheat sheet, and there is nothing wrong with using this as a crutch or a script. I would rather spend time getting everything ready than waste my time trying to memorize all the steps. Anyway, we start with me going over the directions that are or were on the front board, and I explain the why behind it like I did earlier. Okay, I don't think I actually explained the why. So I'm not giving out tape because it just won't work with the project that we're doing, because we're going to make tears and you can't tear through tape. Scissors kind of takes the fun out of everything, and if they start cutting wrong, then it's going to go wrong for them. This really, by not giving them scissors, it really helps them hone in on the activity and take their time. New construction paper, I can't do that because then we will never get through it, because they'll realize it's okay to not take their time and make mistakes. So that's the reason why I won't give out new construction paper. They get one shot at this. I will repeat myself because this is not a quiz. We're trying to get through this, but I'm also trying to get them to, at the very least, use context clues as I'm explaining the directions. So I will restate them. I'll try to state them in different ways if they look confused. So that's why for that part. And I won't visually show them, because the whole point of this is for them to listen and gain a deeper knowledge of the vocab as we go through this. However, in the very beginning, I want to say the first 2 little baby steps, I may show them so they get the hang of what we're doing. All right, so I'm also walking around the room giving out the pre-cut square pieces of construction paper. You can start off with a full rectangle, which takes much less prep on your part. However, cutting the rectangle pieces of construction paper into perfect squares will save so much in-class time, thus making the activity more fun. You'll get way deeper in the activity by doing that ahead of time. And a tip would be to get the students to help you beforehand to build up a good amount for future years, like making these squares, not even knowing what they're for. So as I'm passing out the square construction papers, I remind them not to do anything with these pieces. I also let them know not to perform any folds unless they are 100% sure they understood my verbal directions. I explained to them that it could ruin or make things very difficult for them with each successive step. So again, this paper is behind the scenes. These are my notes for them. This is not displayed. This is not for them to see. This is just to help me get through without memorizing all the things that I want to touch on. All right, so we begin. I go over my first direction, which is on the paper it's not being displayed, but it's on the paper. And let's just read through these and we'll add some commentary as I go through it. So I tell them, take the giant square and fold it along one of its diagonals. Try to match up the vertices as close as possible. So this step right here is when I might have to show them visually how to do this. I don't think I do with this one actually. So I just go over these directions. They tend to get it. Then when I get to this one, this is when I have to show them visually. I say fold along the same crease but in the opposite direction. So since we're just starting, even though I stress same crease, they don't hone in on that well. So I really have to drive it home, so I visually show them to fold it back and forth, telling them that the whole point is we're trying to weaken this crease and we're going to eventually tear down that crease, but I have to show them visually for that step. So next is fold it back and forth several times, weakening the crease. I also tell them that you could lick, but not slobber, on the crease itself, and by on the crease I mean actually on your finger, and then just like rub your finger along the crease. I tell them that grosses me out. That's kind of like nails on a chalkboard for me, but it does work if they're very careful about it. All right, and then I tell them, once you're convinced the crease is weak, carefully tear it along the crease. And it's okay to give a visual on how to tear. So I show them to get a little bit started, like maybe an inch and a half started, and then that technique where you put your hands together and slide them apart. And I'll show that to them on the front board. So then I'll have these little prompt questions that I ask them afterwards. For example, I'll say, what are you left with? And they'll tell me 2 triangles. And I'll say, what type of triangles are they? And usually they will give me one piece of it. They might say right triangles, and then I'll say, can anybody be more specific? And then you're trying to get out of them a right isosceles triangle. Then I'll say things like, what fraction is one of those triangles compared to the original total area? So you're looking for 1/2. What percent is one of those triangles compared to the original total area? 50%. Then we do something fun where I say, I want you to mix up your shapes, and they look at me like I have 2 heads, but I show them an example, like just mix them up so it's not forming anything. So they'll just kind of lay them on top of each other haphazard. And I'll look at all the kids' desks real quick, and I'll tell somebody to remix them if it looks like they're already in the form of a shape. And I'll tell them, on go, I want you to make a shape, and I'm going to tell you what that shape is. So I'll say, make a parallelogram, go. So they'll move it around, and they'll try to make a parallelogram. And right off the bat, there's actually 3 correct answers. You could have a rectangle, the original square, or the traditional looking parallelogram. Any of those will work. And in fact, not only do I give guesses out to the first person that gets it right, and by guesses, again, we're pointing back to the reward system, but the other thing is I will point out that, oh, there's another correct answer. Ooh, this person got another correct answer, to show them that there's more than one way sometimes to do some of these little mini directions that I'm giving them. I'll tell them to mix it up one more time, and I'll say make 2 triangles, or make 1 giant triangle. So when they make 1 giant triangle, same thing, I'll give out a guess for the first person to get it, and the guess is again tied to our reward system for our estimation contest. So for step 2, I tell them take one of the remaining triangles and fold it, causing a crease that bisects the 90-degree angle. I might say things like the crease should form a perpendicular line with the hypotenuse of the triangle. And they may ask me what's a hypotenuse, so I'll get into that. Fold it back and forth several times, weakening the crease. Once you're convinced the crease is weak, carefully tear it along the crease. And then this is the last time I show them a visual, but then moving forward they don't get to see that visual. And then again, I'll follow it up with some math-related questions that often deal with vocab. Then we'll move on to step 3, and I'll say take the other large triangle and fold it so that the 90-degree angle touches the midpoint of the hypotenuse. Fold it back and forth several times, weakening the crease. Once you're convinced the crease is weak, carefully tear it. And then I'll have follow-up questions. And after we get through the follow-up questions, we again try to make shapes. And the first person to make the shape, so now we're at a 3-piece puzzle. The first person to get through that gets a guess. All right, since we're running short on time here, the rest is just directions. So again, as I said earlier, pause when you need to. So we have directions, follow-up, next set of directions, follow-up, obviously the shape making, the puzzle making, next set of directions, follow-up, puzzle making. And the directions part of these are pretty easy to find on the internet. The follow-up questions are not as prevalent. And then this is just, this adds the fun to it, because with tangrams we end up with the 7 pieces and they're struggling making the different shapes using only 7 puzzle pieces. So it's a fun frustration. All right, so this takes us to the end of part, their hands-on 5. So in the next video, it's going to be part 2 of this, which will be hands-on activity number 6. We'll see you in the next video.